What's going on, guys? Alejandro here, and we're starting a new show called Get Internet Famous. Now, this is not so much about just using the online to stay online. This is all about the passionate entrepreneur. Remember, we talked about in the last video, talking about getting internet famous in 2012, was all about tying your passion and your expertise, bringing those two together to build an online platform for success, not only in business, but life. And so what I want to do with this show, this is going to be also a podcast, is to bring on friends of mine. I've been very blessed to have met a lot of people online throughout the years, authors, speakers, marketers, businessmen, CEOs, execs, all that great stuff. And I want to extract that knowledge, those secrets, those things that they did that really help them take their business to the next level, or really start that business. What inspired them? What was the story behind that? What was that struggle? What was that triumph? So I'm going to be doing these interviews as well as some tips and webinars and things of that nature to really help you. It's all about you. I'm just bringing people on to give you information to leverage the web. That's my specialty and expertise, to grow your online business as well as your offline. So if you're a local small business owner, we want to help you get known in your local community. We've helped companies do that over the last few years. If you're an online author or speaker or something of that nature, we want to help you get found and stand out and really make an impact and have that influence that I really believe we all deserve. So this first interview, I'm so excited about. A good friend of mine, John Morgan, and I say a good friend because he actually wrote, I was actually in the book, if you see there, Alejandro Reyes. So he's a real friend of mine. Wrote a book called Brand Against the Machine. Awesome book. I read it in about 10 days. It was so bite-sized. A lot of times these chapters, I can't read it all, and so I put the book down and come back to it in a few weeks. But this was so easy to read, and so this is a great interview to really kick off this Get Internet Famous show, as I really believe personal branding right now is critical for passionate entrepreneurs to go out there and spread their message, make an impact, and make some money at the same time. So with that said, let's just jump right into this interview with John Morgan. Stay tuned for more great ones. Thanks so much. What's going on, John? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
Really excited to have you here to talk with these folks about really how I've been talking to you about 2012. Really, can people really still leverage the online and the offline to really brand against the machine and separate themselves, when a lot of people have been really talking about that personal branding over the last few years? And it's funny, man, I've never really read any of those books, and I think they're great. But when it comes to branding, you're the guy that I've always asked. I've always sent a tweet to, or a direct message, or a message on Facebook, say, hey man, I need your help. And a few weeks ago, during Christmas, as I was kind of looking to 2012, as a lot of entrepreneurs do, started thinking about, man, I really want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I love, that I'm passionate about, and the things that line up with some of my skill sets and expertise at. And so you really helped me, man. So first of all, I want to say thank you so much for helping me, man.
Oh, well, you're welcome, man. The pleasure was all mine.
And so that's what we're going to talk about. I know a lot of folks, as we're getting into the new year, kind of thinking about, well, am I doing what I love to do? Am I doing what I'm good at? And am I making money and making an impact in my family and my community? And so I want to talk to you right off the bat. I want to talk about, can people still in 2012 go online, build a personal brand, and get known, become that rock star in their niche?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is absolutely. And the longer answer is, not only can you do it, but it's critical that you do it. Personal branding is going to be around as long as we continue to do business with people we know, like, and trust. The day we wake up and change that, we can throw personal branding, out the window.
Right.
But our relationships matter, and every time, you have an interaction with someone, every time you talk to someone, every time someone, goes to your website, reads your blog, whatever the case may be, that's branding. That's changing their perception of you. Everyone has an opinion about you, whether they know you or not. And so, and again, until that changes, branding and personal branding are going to be a part of our lives, and it has to be something we focus on, especially in the future, because it's only more crowded now than it was, 3 years ago or 30 years ago.
Absolutely. How did you get involved with, it's very interesting to me how people come to be doing what they're doing, whether it's a speaker or a massage therapist or whatever. How did you, come to being the guy when it comes to the Chuck Norris of personal branding?
Right.
Chuck
I
Norris
wish
calls you when he wants to talk about his next movie.
that's right. Yeah, I coach Chuck Norris. Wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah, it's not as sexy of a story as I wish I had. Right? A lot of people have the,
It's good though.
yeah. I went from being homeless, eating noodles every day, and that
Right.
stuff, and now I'm this internet millionaire, and it's like, man, my story's not that exciting. Basically, for some reason, and I really don't know, this just explains how big of a nerd I was. When I was a teenager, I was reading marketing books. Didn't make me popular with the ladies. Didn't make me one of the cool kids or anything like that. But it was just something that was kind of fun and interesting to me. I didn't think anything about it as far as a career or anything like that. In fact, when I graduated high school and went to college, for the brief time that I went, I wasn't even taking any marketing classes. Like, it wasn't on my radar to do it. But basically, the short story is I was engaged to get married to my beautiful wife, and everyone was saying, you need to find a job and a career and, not be a loser, right? And so I ended up falling sort of into real estate and being a real estate agent for the sole reason of I thought that people would think I was professional because I had to wear a tie. So I thought, okay, here's the career, that the family won't, shut up about, so everyone now can be happy. And then quickly realized that no one knew who I was, no one cared who I was, and so the phone wasn't ringing at all. And I was struggling. The business was horrible, and I was dead broke, and it wasn't a happy time, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, wait a minute, I've been reading about this stuff forever. I need to stop thinking of just Coca-Cola as a brand or, Pepsi as a brand and realize, wait, all these other real estate agents in the market, they're a brand. People don't call, this agent because they're with Remax
Right.
or because this one's with Century 21. They call because of them.
That's good.
And the moment I realized that and started applying that to that business, things just exploded. So the real estate business grew. But then what happened, Alejandro, is other businesses outside of real estate started calling me to consult with them
Wow.
and help them with their brand. And I realized, wait a minute, I have a lot more fun doing this. I get paid more doing this. And this is what, just is truly making me happy. So I sold the real estate business, and I've been helping brands ever since.
One thing that is interesting, and people have heard this before, but I'll reiterate it. It's people don't buy the product, they buy the person. And that's something that, it's so funny. Your story is so similar to mine. I was, before 2003, 2004, I was trying to be this. My entry into entrepreneurship was through network marketing, and so I love that industry because it taught me personal development. And I was this loser kid that wasn't making money at it, and met this girl, and who's now my wife. And her dad's a farmer from a very conservative town, and small town, 4,400 people. And I said, I want to be a mortgage person because that's perceived as cool. It was hot in 2004, 2005.
Oh, sure.
It was hot. And that's so funny, that perception about people, what you do for a living and who you say you are.
Mm-hmm.
People respect you, and it adds a little bit of credibility.
Right.
And in your book, you talk about, I think you say, if you don't define your brand, someone else will, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Because that's a thing, actually, that a lot of my competitors, like, I disagree with them on. They'll do this whole thing of, hey, wait a minute, your audience defines your brand. You're not in control of your brand. And it's like, wait a minute. Yeah, you are. You're in control of your actions. You're in control of how you define it. If we allowed someone else to define it, Alejandro, then I could come up to you at a networking event, meet you, and you say, hey, what do you do? I don't respond. You tell me. I'm going to tell you what I do, right? I'm going to define it for you, right? So that's the thing. And I look at, recently we had, Papa John's, had the big, branding blunder and, got their black eye. And, social media, of course, anytime there's a negative story about a company, it blows up and it goes viral.
Yeah.
And what's amazing to me is then everyone's like, hey, look, there's a perfect example. You're not in control of your brand. It's like, wait a minute. Yeah, you are. Papa John's did the mistake, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was the control. it doesn't, go viral if they don't ever mess up.
Yeah.
So it still comes back to personal responsibility. And that's where, again, you can't, people are begging to be led. You define yourself and the value that you present to your audience. Then, of course, they impact your brand, because if people like it, great. And if they don't, they're still going to talk about it. So, yeah, your audience is still a part of it, but ultimately you define it.
It's interesting, the cool thing about personal brand, it could work in any industry. When you talked about Papa John's, I'm reminded of a gentleman that owns, I think, 3 or 6 Domino's Pizza. His name's Ramon DeLeon. I'm not sure if you've heard him, but he basically, one of his employees made a bad order. They sent someone that delivered the wrong pizza. He ends up creating this video with the employee, basically taking it in the chin and saying, we messed up, we're going to hook you up. But what's happening, the cool thing about social media is that it's not this conversation. It's this conversation happening and everybody's really watching it. And this is so cool, kind of your story with real estate, teaching branding. Now for real estate agents, now you're doing it, industry-wide. It's a bunch of different industries globally. And now this guy's speaking all over the world. And this guy's a Domino Pizza owner. And because he went out there, took ownership, defined his own brand, and now people really want to hear from him. And it's funny you talk about that. I want to kind of segue into a chapter in the book, Brand Against the Machine. Good stuff in here, and it's these bite-sized nuggets. You can literally read this book probably in about a week. It's super easy. A lot of stuff that instead of oh man, I got 10 chapters left, I'll put it down. Great job, man. But I love that you talk about this local coffee shop that kind of try to sweep some things under the rug in the chapter 49 called Viva la Failure. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, this is an example of a company that was not embracing their mistakes, because what that chapter is about is we're gonna fail. Everyone's gonna screw up at some point, because none of us are perfect, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you have to understand. I mean, the most perfect person that's ever existed was Jesus Christ, and look how many people hate him.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't please everyone. There's going to be mistakes and failures. But what happened with this coffee shop was when they made a mistake, and people were addressing it to them on Twitter. And again, this coffee shop didn't even have 100 people following them. It wasn't like, a big Papa John's blow up, right? But when people started addressing the mistake to them on Twitter, instead of, reacting in a, concerned way or addressing those issues, they delete the Twitter account.
Wow.
And then start a new one with a different name until, guess what? They had made another mistake, and more people hate them. Then those people start tweeting about it. So what did they do? They deleted that Twitter account. And it's like, you can't run from it. Those people who, had the bad experience, deleting the Twitter account doesn't change their experience, and it doesn't shut them up.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. When people make a mistake, we're all so forgiving of it, right? Let's look at some of the big brands out there. I mean, first of all, Amazon made the mistake, what was it, last year or maybe 2 years ago, with the horrible, ebook designed to help people be pedophiles, right? I still buy something from Amazon almost every week. I didn't agree with what they did. That was a mistake, but Amazon's just fine.
Absolutely.
BP destroys our ocean.
Yeah.
And if you go to any BP station, at least in my town, people are still getting gas. They're just fine. Let's look at, celebrities. How many mistakes has Robert Downey Jr. made, in his life?
Right? He's Iron Man.
I was going to say, he's still one of my favorite actors, right?
Amazing,
He's, So what happens is people just want to see that you own up to the mistake. They want to see how you correct it. Right? That's the mistake that people make when they try to run from it, they try to hide it, or they even respond, in an angry way. And I'm not saying that, the customer is always right, because guess what? Customers aren't perfect either. They can make mistakes. But when the public is watching, they just want to see how you handle it. We're forgiving of mistakes by nature. I mean, it's what we do as humans, right? We see someone fall, we can't wait to build them back up, and see them sort of rise again.
Yeah, people like us want to do that.
Absolutely.
Kick it in.
That's true. But again, we just want to see how you're handling it, and that's the thing that's funny. If you go back to the Amazon thing, one of the things that I saw was more people were tweeting about the fact that Amazon was slow to apologize than they were the mistake Amazon made in the first place.
Yeah.
So they're
That's
more
the Tiger Woods thing.
Yeah, exactly. Let me hear. Yeah, the Tiger Woods thing, which is first of all a lesson in being authentic, right? We knew nothing about him. He was very close guarded, and his brand was false. But notice how successful he was because he defined it.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes back to that. But anyways, yeah, it turns out Tiger Woods is a douchebag, and now we all see what was going on, and look how late he was to even come out with the apology. A lot of people didn't.
You still get that no matter how well he's going to do. Although in sports, it's very interesting. The more you win, like Kobe, the more you win, people winning helps you.
Right.
When he helped Charlie Sheen, but the thing with Tiger, it's like you still get this bitter taste, like in your mouth about him. You know what I mean? And so
because here's the difference. Tiger seemed like he was sorry he got caught, not sorry about what happened. Kobe came right out.
Right.
And was like, hey, first of all, I didn't do anything wrong, but I did have an affair, and that was wrong. And he owned up to that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why now, exactly what you're saying, we're watching Kobe succeed, and everybody's like, hey, this is cool. He's got sponsorships back. He's, his jerseys are selling.
Exactly.
Everything's there because, he just owned up to it. It was, just one of those things. You're like, hey, yeah, look, I screwed up, and I'm going to try to make it better. Again, with Tiger, it's like, were you actually sorry? Or was this just very inconvenient, for you, and that's what you're upset about?
Absolutely. Speaking on sports, and we'll close it with this, and then I want to get to one last thing in the book. But Tebow, we didn't talk about this before. I know you're a big football fan. I want to. This guy's the most polarizing guy, and stands up for what he believes in. And I just want to know if Tebow came to you, who Chuck Norris goes to for workout advice, what would you advise Tebow? Do you like the way he's handling his personal brand? What advice and tips can we gain from Tebow?
Yeah, I would tell him to keep doing exactly what he's doing. First of all, people are talking about him. Second of all, he's handling the attention, even the negative attention, very well.
Yeah.
I'm a religious guy, and I respect that he's saying, look, I'm religious, and I'm not going to hide it. And if somebody's watching this and listening to this and you're not religious, just understand that those who are feel like that's the most important thing in their life. So if Tim Tebow was, not going to talk about God and then claim that God's the most important thing in his life, that's fake.
That's good.
So, he really is being authentic, to himself. The problem is the media spotlight has grown so big that people are like, well, it's for show. But everyone I know who has known him, behind closed doors is like, nope, that's exactly how he is.
Yeah.
And that's it. So, time will tell if a big, controversy or some kind of trouble comes out with him later, the brand comes off the tracks, right?
Yeah.
But right now, I mean, he's doing everything, that he should do. He's handling criticism well. He's, doing his thing, right? He's practicing. He showed up, he's trying hard, and all these different things. And I think that it's just an example of once the media gets talking about something, they can't stop. Right, it just keeps snowballing. But I mean, look, certainly it's actually been great for him. I mean, it forced the Denver Broncos to kind of make him the quarterback, and he's selling jerseys and all of those things.
Isn't that crazy? How a personal brand created this, fanatical people that put him in a position. It's what's happening with these people in different Middle Eastern countries. They get excited or they're for or against something, and they can rise up. And that can be like this local coffee shop. You can have businesses can be out of business based on you not taking care of that brand.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing what happens. And so let's take a look, because I think a big part of branding is personality. And entrepreneurs need to be willing to put their personality out there. So your example of the Domino's owner, that's what he did, which makes him stand out from even other Domino's franchise owners, right? Because it's his personality there. But as of us recording this, the Denver Broncos and Tim Tebow just knocked out my Pittsburgh Steelers out of the playoffs, right? I'm a Steelers fan. I'm watching that game on the edge of the couch. They knock my guys out, and you know what the first thing I say to my wife is?
Good for Tebow.
I'm very happy for Tim Tebow. Like, I'm actually glad, that he kind of, shut some people up by winning the playoff game and, and those things, right? And again, funny. my soul is supposed to be broken here, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've been a Steelers fan for a long time. But yet, all of a sudden, this personal brand comes out because he does show his personality. Think of all the other, athletes out there we know nothing about. Which again, that's why the Tiger Woods train wreck was such a train wreck. There's, if you go back to, the late great Wilt Chamberlain,
Yeah.
Him being with women doesn't hurt his brand because he talked about it.
Exactly. It's very
Tiger lied about it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like I respect Tim Tebow because this is who I am, and I'm going to put my personality out there, and it allows people to love him or hate him, but everybody knows who he is, and that's important.
Man, it's good. I love that when you said it's that authenticity. You talked about authenticity, talked about getting your personality out there, and just being real, man. I think people really want that. That's why I think, reality TV, although a lot of it's suggested by producers, different scenes and scripted, we feel it's real, and so that's why we're kind of attracted to it more. And I think that's the cool thing about building your personal brand and putting your personality and our authenticity out there, is that people they feel like they really know you.
Yeah, and here's a great example. I'm a reality TV fan, not like, super like into.
I'm
like
up there. I'm up there.
A bunch of things, but like, let me just take Survivor for example. And anybody, who watches Survivor will know exactly what I'm talking about. They bring back former contestants like Boston Rob and Russell because of the personality. Most of the people that come on that show showcase no personality whatsoever, but the ones who do are the ones who keep getting invited back because there's personality to them, right? And so they kind of become this brand. And as business owners, again, we have to remember, you've got a company and that's great, and your focus is your product and service and those things. We still want to do business with people. And so the more you put your personality out there, it allows people to find different things that they can connect to you with or relate to you with, and it builds that rapport because they feel like, hey, I kind of know this person. And, again, you and I don't know Tim Tebow, but we're kind of like, yeah, man, you know what? Go,
I want to be his best friend.
Knock these guys out. Right? It's that same kind of thing. It's just a matter of, okay, do we kind of know you and do we not? The people we know, we like.
Yeah.
And the people we don't know who don't allow us in, we're indifferent about. And that's a dangerous thing. If your audience is indifferent about you, you got a lot of problems.
I said this in a video last week that talked about, if you think about, because a lot of people when they think, they don't think in terms of their industry, and they think, how can I do this, how can I do this? But this is why personal branding I think is so important, is if you think about the most known, well-known, recognized people in your niche, whether it's an offline local store, local business owner, online, those ones most of the time are probably the most recognizable personalities, probably the one making not only the most income, but the most impact in the community. And that's why I think in 2012 it's really important to develop that personal brand, man.
Exactly right.
So I'm actually reading the book and applying some of this stuff. And you guys got to pick it up. I put a link below for you guys. But in chapter 37, you talk about, we'll close with this, the overnight authority. A lot of people say, you're a 10-year overnight success or something like that. And for those that are watching this right now, you've been doing something, whether it's a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10, 20 years, you've got all that level of expertise that you've done something in. So it's not very hard to become this overnight success. And the strategy that you talk about in this chapter is going out there and interviewing, experts and the people you look up to. And not only about, maybe you're not going to be doing these types of interviews, but talk about the importance of going out there and just interviewing, maybe not posting them, but really connecting and learning from mentors.
Yeah, well, I think it's super important because I think that our ability to ask for help is greatly going to determine our success.
That's good.
And one thing that I feel like is maybe my strongest, asset or skill or whatever you want to call it, is that I'm not afraid of asking a stupid question, and I'm not afraid of asking someone important or famous or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It used to drive my wife crazy. We would go to conferences and I would see in the hall, oh, there's so and so who's like a big name in the industry, right?
Yeah.
And she'd be like, where are you going? And I'm like, I'm gonna go say hi to him. And she's like, what are you going to say? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm going to go and talk to him, right? Because I'm just not afraid risk embarrassment or them,
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, and especially in the social media age, what are they going to do? If they're a jerk, I'm going to tweet about it. So they kind of have to talk to me, right? Especially, face to face.
Yeah.
But yeah, being able to approach people, and what I talk about in that chapter is, doing interviews and those kind of things so that, you get to know them and people are associating, you with them and, and those things. But yeah, I mean, the thing is when you reach out to someone and you ask them, for help. And I don't mean help in that, hey, will you promote my business?
Right.
I mean help in that, you're looking for an insight or a piece of advice or, something, that's there. It's really, really important to people. And social media allows us this great way to see what's important to them and, connect with them on that level, right? And that's really, really cool. So, yeah, you can't be afraid to reach out to them and just simply ask them whatever it is you want to ask them. The answer is no if you don't ask. And the worst thing that's going to happen is that they're just not going to respond to you. I've never had anyone in years of doing this respond to me in a negative way.
That's good.
Yeah. The worst case scenario is you just don't hear from them. And what did you really lose? Nothing.
No, absolutely. I think it's that credibility by association. And, when I needed help with something, I was just like, it was just making my stomach sick. Like, I just wanted to be sure. Sometimes we just need someone to kind of take a look at it and just say one thing, that tweak or that just minor thing that, man, just goes a long way. Maybe they don't even realize it. You didn't probably realize how massive that conversation was, but I wasn't afraid to ask someone that I really knew that can give me the right answers, and you set me on this path, man, and I'm interviewing you, and so thank you so much for that. Folks, make sure to pick up the book. John, what's one last thing in 2012 that folks really need to, yes, focus on personal branding, but what's the one thing that they can do right now outside of going to pick up the book and really, devouring that information? What would you say?
I think 2012 is the year I want people to focus more on their visibility than their ability. And one of the things I talk about in the book is that, your visibility is actually more important than your ability. If you've got the greatest product or service in the world, but no one knows you exist, you're not making it.
It's good.
Right? We all have that competitor that's really successful, but we know their stuff sucks. It's because they've got the more visible brand. So it doesn't mean that you can have a bad product or service. What it means is that visibility is going to get you in the door. Your ability is going to keep you there. So instead of just focusing on becoming better and better at all these skills that most people don't ever even see, focus more on getting your stuff out there, getting your content out there, getting your name out there, building those relationships. Let this be the year that you put visibility as priority number one, because chances are if you've been doing this, even a decent amount of time, your ability is solid enough that you can make a successful business out of it. But again, not if nobody knows who you are.